It's been just over a year since I moved into my very first home, where I was able to escape from my setup being in the corner of a spare bedroom when living with my dad, to having a full dedicated home office. And if you follow me on Instagram for a while now, or have seen my previous desk setup tour, then you can see that a lot has changed. So before I change anything else, let me give you the grand tour. Let's kick things off with the biggest pieces of the setup, starting with the desk. This is the B-Flow Tenon, which is arguably the most luxurious standing desk ever made, and one that perhaps not a lot of you watching have seen before. It measures 150 centimeters wide and 80 centimeters deep, which I think is a great size for a desk, as I have had slimmer desks in the past, and you do quickly realise how important real estate is on your desk. This is the red oak version of the B-Flow Tenon with white legs, which I think is one of the reasons why this desk stands out so much, as because the red oak has a slightly warmer tone to it in comparison to most wooden desk setups you see on the likes of Instagram. As well as the legs just looking like normal desk legs that you wouldn't even think this was a sit-stand desk. The desk can be controlled by its built-in control panel, which lets you set different standing modes, as well as adjust the built-in light bar at the back of your desk, and some other cool stuff like a timer to remind you when to stand. The chair at the moment is the Saihu Doro C300, which I think out of everything is probably what I get asked the most about, mainly due to the skeleton-like design. It does resemble the Herman Miller Embody chair by a fraction of the price. But you don't just buy a chair for the looks, so how comfortable is it? And to that I would say, it's pretty comfortable. It has all the ergonomic bells and whistles you'd be after, like adjustable armrests, neck and lumbar support. But I've always found this question so hard to answer, as how comfortable a desk chair is very subjective. So I think until I try a Herman Miller chair, which everyone says is the peak level when it comes to ergonomic desk chairs, I won't be able to confidently say how comfortable a chair actually is. But if you are looking for a new desk chair for your setup and you don't want to pay £1,000, then I think this is a really good option. The last big piece is this under-desk drawer unit from IKEA called Trotten. I picked this up as I kept just finding my desk being cluttered with things on the daily basis that didn't really have a home, like my SD cards, charging cables, notebooks. So I picked this up, which I think still blends in pretty well with the white legs of the desk. For some reason this is quite a bad star rating on IKEA, which I don't really know why. So if you have been looking to pick one up but you've been put off by the star rating, let me put your minds at ease and say it is really great. From the mountain of stuff I've bought from IKEA, this was a breeze to put together, and for the price I think it's a great option. Also, before I forget, every item in this video will be listed below with links where I can find them. Now the workhorses of the setup, my computer and monitor. This is the Apple Studio display, which for those who don't know is a 27-inch 5K monitor, and it is just beautiful. The colours and picture quality is amazing, the metal build, everything in my opinion about this monitor is pretty much perfect, besides maybe the chunky bezel, but that's nitpicking. I still get the same question a lot about this monitor, and that is whether it's still worth it. And in my opinion, ever since I got it, I said yes. Not because it's Apple, but really when you look at what other options are there for a 27-inch 5K monitor, there isn't really a better option or an option that comes close. So if anything, the Apple Studio display might even be a good deal, especially because it's gone down a little in price now. Having said all that, I will note this only really applies if you work in the Apple ecosystem and you aren't planning on playing games on this monitor. So it really isn't for everyone, but for me and my workflow, it's pretty much perfect. And on top of the monitor, I have a couple of accessories. I have the Halo light bar from BenQ, which also has this puck that is used for a controller to adjust the brightness and temperature. To be honest, most of the time I forget that it's even there, as I'm just so caught up in what I'm working on at that moment that I forget to turn it on. So this might be something that I take out of my setup in the future. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. On top of the light bar, I have the Opal C1 webcam, which I think we can all agree as far as webcams go. The design of the Opal C1 is beautiful, with the subtle texture and the amazing picture quality, especially in comparison to the built-in webcam in the Apple Studio display. But I also don't really go on that many calls now, so this also might be something that I take out of my setup and maybe just keep in a drawer when I do go on that odd call now and again. To partner the Apple Studio display, I have the M1 Mac Studio, More so now than ever that I've become a full-time content creator, my need for a portable Mac is little to none. So the Mac Studio is perfect for me and my workflow at the moment. And I have to say, considering this is the M1 version of the Mac Studio, I still haven't experienced any lagging or glitching or anything that would make me want to upgrade this machine. So if you're thinking of getting a Mac Studio, I would highly recommend looking at M1 and potentially saving yourself quite a bit of money. I also have the Mac Studio sitting in a clear stand by Spigen, which if you are going to get a Mac Studio or already have one, I would highly recommend picking one of these up, as the Mac Studio can collect a lot of dust, and this has a built-in air filter, so it takes care of that worry that your Mac Studio is just going to crash one day because it's got so much dust build up. And if you are interested in this wallpaper, there will be a link down below. Okay, shameless plug over. Now let's move on to all the other items that are on my desk. In my last desk setup tour, I was using the Apple Magic keyboard, but since then I have tried many different keyboards and have chosen my favourite at the moment, the Keychron Q1 Max. There's a few reasons why I really like this keyboard. The overall build quality being full metal, the height and angle of the keyboard, which I find very comfortable to type on, and this little control knob, which I find so handy just to control the volume. It's one of those things that once you start using it, you don't think you can use another keyboard that doesn't have this feature. And the mouse of choice at the moment is the Logitech Lift. Now I say at the moment because I do think I'll be going back to the Logitech MX Master 3. Don't get me wrong, the Logitech Lift is a really nice mouse. It did take me a little bit of time to get used to a vertical mouse, but once I did, I really liked it. The only thing that I miss about the MX Master 3 is the side scroll wheel, which comes in really handy because a lot of time I will be editing a video, so just being able to scroll on the timeline, it's a really nice luxury. Both of these are sitting on a slim desk mat by Orbit Key, which has this really nice cable clip on the side, which I don't think I have ever used, but it looks nice nonetheless, as well as this document hideaway underneath, which again I've never used, but it's nice to have. Going from right to left, I have this lovely little plant in the corner, which one of the things I wanted to add into this setup, as opposed to my old setup, was a lot more greenery, now that I have a lot more natural light coming in. Next to that are my Sony XM5 headphones, sitting on a Mallow Slim headphone stand by Wooden Dot. It was always between the Sony XM5s and the Apple AirPods Max, but after trying them on in person and watching a lot of reviews, the overall consensus is that the Apple AirPods Max aren't that comfortable, especially because of how heavy they are, whereas the Sony XM5s are, if anything, too light, almost to a point where they feel cheap, but they're not, they're incredibly well made, and in probably my unpopular opinion, look better than the AirPods Max. And this stand by Wooden Dot, which I feel is something you either love or hate, as when I post this on Instagram, half the people were saying that they loved it, and the other half were saying, how could you spend £50 on a block of wood? But personally, I didn't want just a normal looking headphone stand. I wanted something that felt elegant and almost blended in with the rest of the desk setup. So I think this ticks both of those boxes. On the other side is this Nomad Stand 1, which is a MagSafe phone charger. This is actually the latest addition to my setup, and it is something I've wanted for so long, as I think it looks really clean on my desk and gives a nice balance of black and white items. As well as the overall build quality, it really does justify the price. Now let's talk about lighting. Lighting to me is the most important part in any desk setup, as good lighting can make any setup look amazing, regardless of what items are actually on the desk. First, I have this table lamp that I found from a shop called Homesense. I immediately gasped when I saw this lamp, as it closely resembles this lamp that I've had on my wish list from Ordo Copenhagen, which costs around £500, whereas the lamp I found was only £50. Besides from it missing the little piece of wood on top, the rest of the lamp is pretty much the same, design wise anyway, so this might just be a inspired lamp based off that. My standing lamp is the IKEA Lattice. This has been part of my setup for as long as I can remember, and it's just not really something I plan on changing anytime soon. I think only if I'm aimlessly walking around a shop and find a lamp that I just fall in love with will be the only reason that I really change this lamp. But if you do have any options that you think would look better, or any ideas in general of what could elevate my desk setup, then please leave a comment. On the back of my monitor are two Philip Hue play bars. These two make a massive difference to the overall look of my setup. As you can see when they're turned off, the overall look is just a lot darker and moodier. And it's nice that you can just stick these on the back of your monitor so they don't take up any more real estate to your setup. Now let's talk about my decoration. Over to the left of my desk I have a Batman poster by one of my favourite designers, Olly. Olly has been such a massive inspiration for me ever since I started my graphic design career back in 2016, which just feels so long ago. This particular poster he made for the movie The Dark Knight Rises, and I just can't imagine this ever leaving my setup. He's also done a bunch more posters and illustration projects, like this Marvel set that I have in my office, so if you haven't, make sure to check out some of his work. Above my desk I have a lac wall shelf from IKEA with a few knickknacks on, and for those wondering, the shelf is 110 by 26 centimeters. On the left of the shelf is another plant, which I've recently given a haircut to, but after a little bit of time this plant will soon drop past my monitor, which adds a lot to the setup, so I'm looking forward to that. Next to that is a Lego Lamborghini Countach, and if you follow me on Instagram for a while now, then you've seen this pairing of Michael and Dwight many of times in my past setups. I am a massive Office fanboy, so I need some homage to the show somewhere on my desk. The last items on my shelf are a few design books, and honestly there's no particular reason why these books are on the shelf, besides that I just think they add a nice pop of colour to the setup. Now let's talk about future upgrades. Besides my mouse, there's only really one major upgrade that I'm thinking of changing in the future, and that is my chair. Although this chair is great, I am thinking of changing it to a smaller one, as this one does feel a little bulky, especially when I'm moving it around to make space for filming. Plus I feel like having a smaller chair might make my space overall just feel a bit bigger. I added a story to my Instagram just asking if you had any questions that you'd like me to answer in this video, so I'm just going to run through a few of them. What Kelvin is your lighting? Mine is around 2700K, as when I searched online what made a cozy lighting, 2700K is what kept popping up, and the Philip Hue bulbs I use in my lamps is set to 2700, so that worked out well. How would you plan work or renovations to your setup? I have actually recently made a video on what my process would be if you were starting to build your dream setup from scratch, so I'll link that down below. But I think the main tip is just take your time. I think one of the biggest mistakes when building my setup was I just rushed into it. I just wanted it to look beautiful straight away, and that led to me buying things impulsively, then later returning them, or selling them or donating them, so it cost me a lot more than it really needed to. Are you satisfied with your setup, or are you still in the process of building your dream setup? This is a really hard question, as at the moment, I absolutely love my setup. I think if I was looking back 5 years, I would never thought that my setup would actually look like this. But I think with everything nice in life, you soon get used to it, and then it's not so nice anymore, you just want to change it. So I don't think I'll ever get to a point where my setup is done, but at the moment I'm extremely happy with it. So that is the latest update of my setup. I do hope you found this video useful or just entertaining, and if you do have any suggestions of what you think I should add or replace with my setup, do let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.